Good morning and welcome to our postmodern architecture presentation. Today we've explored the change from modernist to postmodernist architecture through the late 20th century.
1950s architecture, so on the border of modernist and postmodernist. The architecture was clean lines with symmetrical designs as shown in the top left. 1960s, so bordering more towards postmodernist, was used not only for functionality but for social and political expression, with low roof lines, single-story houses, sunken living rooms, and conversation pits. Throughout the 70s, large windows, split levels, great flow, rumpus rooms, and the sunken lounge were utilised as seen in the right images.
There was a theory called the more or less theory, which was relevant to postmodernist design, is when people designed their homes to have as much in them as possible, as many different colours, small objects, which based on the style we see now can be hard to look at.
Many of the colours of the postmodern movement were bright and bold colours such as primary reds, greens, blues, as well as mustard yellow, with the occasional purple.
In the first house on the top left is a very minimalist design, with large slabs of concrete used for visual interest in the front of the house. This design was from the late 50s. However, the second design is from the early 70s. As you can see, bright greens and contrasting yellows, which used to create visual interest as well as detailing along the facade.
There were many people and things who influenced this type of design and the principles involved in the period. These include the Beatles, who were popular in the 60s, and the moon landing in 1969.
The Rolling Stones was also a large influence, as it was a popular magazine that covered all of the largest issues and insights into pop culture and life, such as Top Gun, Prince, America and communists going against each other.
Another big influence was the introduction of pop culture, which, similar to postmodernism, used bright colours and maximalist designs. In the MTV and Pac-Man arcade games were very popular. An architect who was one of the most popular designers of the movement was Robert Venturi. He designed the Seattle Art Museum as seen in the images, and the Biological Sciences Research Building. One of the clearest examples in his firm's design for the Breast Products Catalogue Showroom, an instance of what the architect called a decorated shed. A large box-like building was clad in decorative panels painted in oversized colourful flowers, a pattern derived from the commercial wallpaper in Venturi and Scott Brown's own bedroom, but also an homage to pop art and pop culture.
There was also a very big movement of futurist designs and space-inspired designs from the landing on the moon and the space race between America and Russia. This is seen in Yanko. A designer called Yanko in the 1960s was greatly inspired by the space race and predominantly depicts oval shapes within its designs to create this futuristic, alien, and aesthetic, using the aqua-looking hues and warm yellow hues to complement each other in that contrast.
The space age aesthetic was also popular, with the larger architecture and urban design movements as well, also influenced by the moon landing, as seen in previous slides. This type of design was able to give a futuristic and innovative feel, which is then combined with cutting-edge elements, which is very visually striking for the viewer to see and encourages people to strive for the future when viewing these designs.
So there was a very different aesthetic in the 1950s, forming simplicity and functionality were a key feature in interior design. However, bold and bright colors were used to complement and contrast each other, as seen in the images with the different variations of blue and reds. And then in the bottom right corner is more 70s feel, which also shows really bright colors that are analogous to one another. And a really big influence was a designer called Memphis, using very striking patterns to incorporate in them. And in this slide, much of product design in the 50s were made from foxwood. So in the top left picture is a 1950s table.
1950s bar table.
It's one of the two. So it used a lot of vinyl MDF board. This was towards the end of the modernist movement, so still quite simplistic design. However, the bar cart from the 80s is quite, in the bottom right, is quite the opposite, having big bold colors and complex designs, showcasing the nature of diverging from modernist movement. And in these are in the first image in the top left is a minimalist gallery that uses a lot of negative space and a minimal color palette, which is more just gray tones, and there is more things hung up rather than displayed on the floor, apart from the rocks in the middle. In the bottom right is by a designer called Hector Satis. He was very abstract designer. He uses a lot of chaotic colors and a lot of glass to show transparency.
These are just my links from all the photos.
These are my links.
From all the photos as well.